to death the whole time. That close to the wrong choice, that close to going the wrong way, that close to being absorbed in my own sin and giving way to those obstacles in the way that stand before me. So yeah, I've had my life saved a lot, and I owe that to God, of course, and I owe that to my guardian angel, but most of all, I owe that to the people who chose to listen to whatever voice was in their head or whatever feeling was in their gut and make the right choice when I couldn't, and help guide me to make the right choice when I didn't want to. So I didn't do it by myself, you know. There are accomplishments I made, and I'm going to be proud of, and all that stuff and everything. I can say, yeah, I did that. But at the end of the day, I did not make every single step of my journey from birth to here. I could not have done that alone. I could not. And to deny that is just to get caught up again in my own ego or my own pride or my own whatever. It will take the help of someone else. And because you're going to need the help of someone else, you have to understand that someone else is going to need your help. So if we're not all doing our part, then nothing gets done. But at the same time, if we make the excuse that I'm one person, what can I do? This is what I did, right? I saw on TV in the news, oh, they're talking, there's other people like me. And literally, I had this battle for a whole week with the voice in my head. That's my confirmation, there's other people. I don't have to go, because I didn't want to do this. I did not want to do this. I did not want to do this. So I'm looking at this news, I'm like, but it's my confirmation, right, of what's going on and everything, but it's also my confirmation that I'm not alone and there's other people. So what if I don't speak up? Someone else will eventually, right? Because I've heard pieces of everything I said here. I promise you, you can take apart any piece of what I said here and do some research on it, and there's going to be something outside of me, outside of this, that you can find to be a source of confirmation for the things that I'm saying, right? It will find you, I should say, because confirmation finds you. You don't go look for it. But you will see these things. So I'm not saying stuff that hasn't been said. I'm simply saying it in a way that hasn't been said. Or maybe not loudly enough. I don't know, because I haven't heard it except from my sources now. There was something else. So let me go back to the stories. We talked about the dog, the death, premonitions, demons, angel, God. Talked about my death, all the way to coming up here. All right, I know I missed something, but we can open it up. Yeah, we can open it up, and if it's meant to be said, it'll be said, and if it's not, I trust God. Let him use my tongue and guide my words. So you guys are here for a reason. We'll wrap it up here with this, and then take a break, and then we can go into the message. Anything?
So, verses come to mind. One of the things of end times, the young men will see visions, and the old men, I don't know if I'm one of them, will have dreams. And this verse, referring to end times, meaning that this is not something that has been ongoing for a long time.
For sure.
In the sense that there's been a break in time, according to the scriptures, of these things happening. Something else comes to mind, all right? So, I listened to what you're saying. It is well spoken and explained as I listen, because I don't interrupt. I want to hear the whole thing come from you, right?
Right.
Another thing in the scriptures, it says, we're given a little bit of truth. And what we do with that determines what's going to happen to that truth. If you take that truth and you act on it, or what you do with that truth determines whether you get more truth. And it's not the fact that you're given a whole picture at any time. It's always built upon. And as you speak about how things happening, whether they're resisting your will to go and do something that you've been told or been told to do, or even the fact of like just I'm not sure what the answer is, and a confirmation shows up. I know, I've seen things that I would say, and again, talking to others, always kind of a little hesitant to say, "This is God sent."
Right.
I can see now, in hindsight, this is God sent. In my, I could say opinion, but yeah. So these, I don't dismiss any of this in the sense like you're crazy and you formulated whatever. No, this is not like that at all. And this spiritualness, using light, because again, this plays hand in hand with spirit. God being spirit, and all of us having spirit as an energy. And yeah, this material stuff is gonna go. Everything material, our bodies and everything are decaying. And the real essence of us is that light. And the negative energy and the positive energy. One of the biggest points I think I take is, as you have said, inward looking at yourself and seeing just the interactions of the lights and being aware of this negativeness. And the word corruption is correct.
Yes.
It is correct in the sense that
that is a word I was given to use.
The word corruption
throughout
is correct, and I believe it's the word used when Noah was told to build the ark, because the world has been corrupted, and there's no blame on Satan given in the scriptures. It's man.
We make the choices.
Beast. It says it's their fault. Well, he names them. He doesn't name Satan. But the truth, the peace, the prophecy, the visions, the dreams. Very, they mesh very well with everything that. Of course, you're going to hear me tell you how. I'm going to say, I've looked into a lot of things. And if I use examples, like just say, I use Tai Chi. I don't have a teacher. But even when you have a teacher, you're told that you need to go and study. And that doesn't just mean to practice the move, although that is a definite thing that needs to be done. It cannot be excused. You need to understand what you're trying to do in that movement by understanding and researching and the theories of what they're, not just the theories, the physicalness of what's going on, all right? Same thing with so I did Eastern philosophies. I studied some Eastern medicine, where their concepts are different than the English. And if you look at the different religions of Taoism and Buddhism and Confucianism, and you go into all these other things and how they see God, or what their essence is in the sense of what they perform. For me, I have studied hard now, and this is not where it is laboring. It is not laboring at all. But I have given my time. And it is not, if I say a choice, yeah, I do the choice every time to do my study. But by no means is it like I'm getting up and doing a workout routine and I have to do it. No, at all. It's definitely by desire. Well, desire is the wrong word. It's definitely a guidance.
Right.
I have understood with God's word. Again, when I say those words, I have understood. It lifts me up like I am nothing. I had thought. What I thought I knew, I now see in a much clearer light, and it is it's a light. It's a light of truth. How I can now, and I am going over it again. What I just did, I'm going over it again. And because it's not easy to pick up all the stuff, and even as lights are going on all the time as I'm going through this in the beginning, and I'm like, wow. But now, I have a. So when we speak anything about, and religion
Yeah.
is not the word, because religion is man-made.
Correct. I agree.
But if I go to look for, how do I know? Where am I going to find out about what is right, what is wrong? How do I check my actions of others, my judgments of them? It's all in the scriptures. It's all in the Bible. It tells me in the New Testament, but even the Old Testament is going to tell you that. This is what it's good for: teaching, reproof, correction, and instruction in righteousness. And you're going to be able to. And it even says, congregations, people come and say things, tell them this. They search the scriptures for the answers to these things. And of course, it's always prayer and fasting and prayer and supplication. Supplication. You're talking to, you're asking God for guidance in the things. And I have, people could say, I've heard the voice of God talk to me. Mm-hmm. And I don't dismiss anybody who says that, because I cannot say definitively, like, I've heard a voice, because I haven't heard a voice. It could be my own in my head that's speaking God's word to me.
That's where I haven't heard an
outside
for a long time.
voice say anything that I would say, whoa. But I have seen many times what I see is God's hand in what even if I don't pray to ask for a which way to go, I am just thinking about it. I haven't prayed. I see things happen that I say, this is pretty remarkable when I see now from hindsight that it's been placed there to guide. Mm-hmm. But again, I don't think people that pray to whatever God are all praying to the same God. I don't think that at all. And as I said before the other time, only two ways for me to know you. Mm-hmm. I know your name, and you can call yourself whatever you want, right. But that's your name, and your attributes, your character. And God, how do I know your character? Not by what you say, but what you do. We can say whatever we want. Words are really, you gotta back up or not. So it's the actions that portray your character, and then I see. That's how I know you. Other than that, it's just, there's no other way. People can tell me all about you, but that's not valid in the sense.
So just real quick on that point, the two big things. When I say to someone I want them to see me, I mean beyond the physical. I mean to see me, and that's exactly what you just said about how do I know you. That's exactly it. Do you know me because of what someone whispered in your ear, or do you know me because when I'm with you, the things that I do, the way that I act, the energy that you feel, the energy that is present between us? Do you know that? Do you see that? Or do you just ignore that and go back to what you heard about me because that's more juicy? Who do you know? Do you know about me because you heard about me? Or do you know me because you've seen me?
You hit on a good point, how it's yourself that's either looking through veil, or like that girl who said, I don't understand. Just being open.
Yeah, in a minute. Thanks.
Just being open and not having all these veils in the way, so that you can see clearly that you're open, you're the clarity of just being without judgment's the wrong word, because like in the scripture says, thou shalt not judge. You cannot go through life without judgment. And we're not talking about, but it's talking about take out that log from your eye before you go remove the splinter in your brother's eye.
And the way to defeat judgmentalism is through understanding. If you can understand someone, it changes from judgment to
it's brotherly affection first, and then love. Because I don't need, like the girl. I don't understand. She doesn't understand, but she's not writing you off. So I don't need to understand what you're trying to say or what you're feeling. I don't need to really understand it. But I ain't gonna have any step forward if I'm not open, to at least
Trying.
try.
Correct.
And trying is a word the Indians don't have. There is no try. You either do or you don't.
Right.
So it's you are open or you are not open. You know?
Right.
And
that's fine. You can say try out, but that's where choice comes in. You have to choose to be open or to not be open. Yeah.
Because you choose to do one or the other.
Right.
The try is just an excuse for what you chose.
Right. You hit on another good point. I just want to tackle it before I forget because I'm forgetful. Back to the depression thing. I just want to emphasize a little bit more that I mentioned, I think briefly, there was a part where I talked about where I was walking in two worlds. When I first really hit this point of aha, right? It was after I let go of that last thing in my life that I was really attached to, that I was just fighting not to let go of. Even though I told myself, I've let go of all this, it's enough. It wasn't enough. There were still things I held dear that I was like, that don't count, right? But it did count, and I had to let it all go to finally, when I thought I would be broken, when I thought that, this is when everybody freaked out. When I let that final thing go, they were like, oh my God, what's he doing? Because it makes sense. I understand it. It would make sense for me to go into depression considering what I had been through and where I'd been before. But that's not what happened. What happened was
a release.
Let me tell you. The entire time I talked about this pain that I carried since I was a kid. That pain to this very day is still with me. It's in me right now. There's not a day that I'm not in pain. And I now understand that that's the same for my father. There's not a day that he's not in pain. And because I understand how it works and how we're generated, I understand that the pain that I didn't know where it came from, I now know where it's coming from. It's coming from all my brothers and sisters. It's coming from all my family. I'm carrying your pain, which I asked to do a long time ago. And it was reminded to me recently that I asked to do. I asked to do in exchange that it may not, you, my loved ones that I asked to do it for, would not condemn themselves. I asked to do it in a way that if I could carry it for you just long enough for you to understand what I understand and to see what I see and to love yourself the way that I love you, to love yourself the way that he loves you. If I could get you there by carrying your sins, then it's worth the load. Even if it means my last breath. Even if it means my last bit of energy. Because I didn't pray for one of you, I prayed for all of you. So if one of me has to go so that all of you can rise, it's worth it for me. It's worth it for me. And I'm not worried about it. It's not a negative thing because I've also spoken to my father and he's promised me that I will be okay. When this is done and I'm no more in this world, I will be okay. He's also told me some other stuff about me. I have a journey ahead of me still. I know that. I still have to work. I still have to get some things done for him. But even through the obstacles that will come my way inevitably, even through the character assassination, getting canceled, or whatever comes out of this for me, even through maybe they cut off my finances, or maybe I go to jail because some stuff comes up conveniently. I'm not spreading conspiracy theories. I don't want to. But I'm saying that even if those kind of situations occurred, he will be with me through it all, and I will be okay. There is no prison, there is no punishment that they can give me that I have not already endured at this point.
It says, especially in the end in Revelations, spells all this out for believers. Prison, persecution, death. This is what's in store when your loved ones, the world is going to hate you because of your belief. And then it just says to hold fast and stay to the end. Persevere through the whole thing, and you will be rewarded.
And I fully believe that. I've already
think that you're not doing this for any kind of material reward, but you will be rewarded.
Right.
To have.
Right. And that's exactly what it is. I'm not doing this because I was told I would be okay. I'm doing this because I was told this is the answer to what I asked for. I asked to carry these sins for you because I asked to be here. I asked to be able to do something to lift up my loved ones. And I'm being blessed with the opportunity and blessed with the honor, the privilege to sacrifice for my family. Because that's what sacrifice really is. It's a privilege. But we don't look at it as a privilege. We look at it as a burden. And that's one of the problems of our filters. because we're not ready to let go. So if I have to let go of the things that I fought so hard for, that is a burden, not a privilege. But when I have to do it for the right, when I choose to do it so that it may lift others up, it's a gift. It's no different than at Christmas time watching my mother, who has no money, go and sacrifice her favorite jewelry or her favorite whatever to get money to give us a gift. And seeing the joy on her face when she sees the joy on ours that came from the fruits of her sacrifice, right? Same thing, just on a different scale, but same thing. So it's an honor and it's a privilege. And when I finally came to this, the point I want to make, when I finally came to this, I had this hole inside of me before my sister died, before everybody died, right? Before we lost them all, I had this hole inside of me my entire life. The day that all this happened, and from that day forward, the hole's gone. It's filled. It's filled. I have been blessed. I talked about that one love, right? I was blessed with another love, and she was something that I prayed for. But what I prayed for was this. What I was given was this. It was amazing. She was a package deal, and it was more than I ever imagined, more than I ever prayed for, more than I ever thought was possible or that I was even worthy of. I was like, I don't even deserve this kind of gift. That was my last love. It was temporary, and it didn't last. And of course, I had something that was the greatest thing I was ever given, and I had it yanked from me. So naturally, I reacted like a spoiled child. And I cried, and I whined, and I was angry, and I went into all of my sin and all my other stuff because I was acting out of immaturity and ignorance. But when I came back to see it for what it was, I understood that had I stood in that moment, I wouldn't be here today. Had I stood in that moment, I would have been like, thank you, selfishly. I'm going to sit here, lazy. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to let everybody else worry about the world. I'm just going to stay here and enjoy my gifts, the fruits of my labor, and that's it. But it was yanked from me because it wasn't meant to be at that time. Maybe later on in my life, maybe when I'm done with my work or whatever, and that's out of my hands. But it is what it is. I appreciate the fact that I even had it at all. I appreciate the fact that it was more than I ever asked for or imagined. I appreciate the fact that despite my filth, despite my shame, he looked at me with enough love and mercy to afford me that moment in time. Memories that I cherish to this day. And even through that time, even through that gift, this hole was not filled. As great as she was, this hole was not filled. But when I blocked out, when I cut off that last piece of poison, that last thing I wasn't ready to let go, when I cut that out, this hole was filled. And I have been, I'm ready for whatever comes. Because even with the sadness that I still carry right now, the weight to it has been lifted. It's easy to carry it. It's like I went from carrying a 1-ton rucksack on my back to carrying something that weighs a couple of ounces. It's still there. It never went anywhere. But suddenly I have the strength. Suddenly I have the energy. Suddenly I'm complete. And it is light. It's in me. I know what it is. I understand it now. But it's light. I can carry it. I can carry it. It's not... And that's the depression. The depression is you can't carry it. You can't carry the pain. You don't know what to do with it. It's too much. It's overwhelming, and you sink in. I'm not on the antidepressants right now. I'm not on any kind of legal substances. I'm not on alcohol. I'm not. Day to day, I do not require any of that to get through my day. In fact, the one thing I was taking as medication, I've done a lot less of, which was prescribed to me, and my prescription drugs I have eliminated, except for like my stomach and my body or whatever. But mentally, nothing. Mentally, absolutely nothing. I've spent my entire life suffering from depression, having this sadness, and all of a sudden, just from this experience, I can carry it, and I know I can say without a fact, and they may come after me for this, but I can say without a fact that although I do still feel the sadness and I'll still break down and I'll still have bad days, I will never harm myself. I will never harm myself because I understand my purpose. I understand that there's more. I understand that it's not about me. I understand that, yeah, I have to carry the pain because there's a greater purpose there. I'm choosing to carry the pain because there's a greater purpose there.
I gotta say, for me, like my nephew, James, I heard him say, my sister has told me, he's talked about hurting himself, killing himself, ending it. I don't understand. I really don't understand from somebody's point of view, their shoes of being at the point of taking your life.
You've never been there. You've never experienced it, yeah.
I've never been there. I would think if that occurred in my dark years, I would remember it, but I do not. I never ever contemplated taking my life. And also, the timetable you just set out with the years like 2017 to 18 and 19 and 20, and I have just gone through the same thing. I went down this journey starting in 2017 September. And
really?
It didn't really hit the spiritual end until it didn't start spiritually until like 2018 in December.
Look at that timing.
And it's pretty remarkable when I realize it now how it is
aligned.
It not only aligned, but I know there's two sounds. Like I'm reluctant to say straight out.
Say it, because that's exactly how I've been. It's this right here.
Through my studies.
Say it.
Scripturally, it says things that when Israel comes back to their land, which happened in 1948, it says that generation will not pass before seeing the end days, all right? And yes, I believe we are close, if not in the end days. I really do, in the sense like what the scriptures say. And being in the studies of the scriptures, to know what the Bible is really understand. Like, let's go with King David.
Okay.
I'm just going to go with a quick thing, all right?
Yeah.
King David, the actual story inside the scriptures, and looking into what the Hebrews, in Hebrew, what it was written, and it says, King David is held up as their greatest king by the Jews and Jews is a term that came way after, all right, because there were no Jews back then.
Israelites.
Right. After the exile of Babylon, and they came back, it was Judah anyway. David committed murder, adultery,
10,000 men,
and he committed adultery with Bathsheba, a woman he saw from his rooftop while walking. Her husband was a military man on a campaign. He called back because he had an affair with her. She got pregnant, and now he wanted to have him, the husband, sleep with her so that the pregnancy could be hidden. But he, a righteous man, not knowing, had suspicions. It's kind of weird. I've called back from the front, and he wants me to go visit my wife, but we don't know anything about the customs of the military so we don't see this ironic. He all of a sudden chooses not to do it. No, it's not all of a sudden. They have this, not custom, they have this way that they are with. They don't sleep with their wives, especially when they're going into battle or before. Even if they're called back from the front, you would think he would want to go see his wife before he has to go back, but he won't. And it's all a ploy from David to try and get him to cover and it doesn't work, so he ends up having him killed by his commanders, by having him sent to the front where he's guaranteed to be killed. He is guilty, but in the Bible, God doesn't say that he rejects David, because why is David still held up by God as King David the high?
He's known as the man after God's own heart.
Even with all that that happened to him, he continually goes back to God, knowing after his heart, he's after God's own heart. And just a man.
Just a man.
That has faults like the rest of us.
Yep.
There is, right? That story in itself. Now, if you look into Jewish religion, Judaism, they will excuse away every sin he did, justifying it. And this is truly what they do.
Right.
And they have volumes of books written about how the rabbis justify debate and come up with all these things. And I'm not putting down like these books are all bad, because these are Jewish men who scholarly study and come up with very good things, like when looking at the scriptures that they see.
Even the greatest lies are based in truth. So if you're not open to the lie, there's a piece of truth you might miss, right? Mm-hmm. You just have to not be afraid of the lie and trust in yourself and trust in that relationship as you build it and as you learn yourself, that you will learn. You have to seek that path to learn how to differentiate what is bad and what is good and what is true and what is false.
I have to. Discernment is very important.
Yes.
All right? Being able to discern between right and wrong. And as I said before, there is a text that teaches us how to do this. How to seek wrong, how to correct it, and then how to teach, and also how to live in righteousness.
Yes.
All right? And without that, in the sense of if I'm not studying that, I'm not really being able to confirm. I'm not really being able to in a sense, I could ask for God's guidance, and yes, I'm not dismissing that. It can be guided. I can be guided by God's hand and will to show me. But knowledge and understanding of the scriptures is the basis of knowing how to see wrong, how to correct it, how to teach, how to live righteously. These are key.
You got anything, Clea?
Question? Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
My question is, so you said, or you have mentioned something about having to waiting for August, right?
Yeah.
And
that was offline. Yeah.
Waiting for what?
Waiting for he was going to be making a move. He was going to be moving.
I was told, so each year I would usually get a word through that voice that would tell me what the next year was going to bring for me. And it's been accurate. Except for like a whole year or two, which was during that time where silence. And I understand now the silence. Well, early in 2019, I received the word as to 2020, what was going to happen. All this stuff that happened, as well as originally what I was told was it was going to be a year of change, right? It was going to be dramatic change, and for me, it would be good change. And then I was told all the stuff that would happen, which is everything, down to famine and plague and fires and all disease, all of that, called all of it. And I said, okay. But again, I was focused on me. I wasn't, I'm going to go tell everybody this.
My question is what was the epiphany that led you to the I know what I gotta do now moment?
Okay, so how did that happen?
What day? How was it? How did you find out?
I was going through all this stuff in 2020, right? And it wasn't positive change for me. It was negative change like it was for the rest of the world. So at that point, I was still kind of dealing with. Because I got that voice in 2019, and 2019 was one of the bad years for me, where I was like ready to give up and all that other stuff. That voice alone is the thing that got me to, okay, I made an agreement, a negotiation to say, okay, fine, I'm going to wait till 2020. We're going to see what 2020 brings. This is it. This is going to be the year. I was told this is going to be the year, so this is going to be the year. If this isn't the year, I'm going to lose my crap by the end of the year. That was my arrogant negotiation with God, right? And I was, so I made it. I made it to 2020 simply because of that. I get to 2020 and I'm getting hit with it. I changed my life in 2020. I made a whole big life-changing move, right? I moved from one state to another. I got rid of everything that I had. I gave thousands of dollars worth of stuff away, right? And I make this move for this great change. And all that keeps hitting me is negative, negative, negative as I'm perceiving it. negative, negative, negative. So I get to the point where I'm about to break again because we're not even halfway through the year and this is chaos. And so I start getting told, wait till August, wait till August, wait till, like the way that I was talking about that nagging voice, every time that I stood up and said, I'm tired, said, wait till August. So July 31st came, and the first thing I had to let go of, which was a toxic individual, but that was tied to someone that I cherished deeply. And I did not want to let go of that person I cherished deeply. I couldn't. To me, it was like asking a parent to let go of their child. It was hard. It was, it still hurts, you know? So I had to make that cut. July the 9th. It was around 7 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the evening, July 31st. August 1st came, and every single day of August, I started to get these, like I told you, with the news, and I was seeing stuff. Every single day of August, some new thing happened where I was, just a little background, I set up some booby traps for the people that were lying to me, right? So I set up some booby traps, and they took the bait. Because I was at a point where I'm listening to this voice now, and it's telling me I'm not crazy, but my family and my loved ones are telling me I am crazy. So I got to choose. So I did a very real test. I set some traps. I threw out some bait, and they took the bait, and I followed that. And that led me to just block, cut people off. So finally, in August, towards the end of it, all this stuff is being revealed throughout August. Towards the end of it, I finally make that last revelation. It comes to me. One of the people I cared most about. It started with the person probably that I love the deepest, and it ended with that next person. And I had to cut them off, and I had to let them go. That very same night to next day, that very same night. That evening when that happened, let me tell you, it was to the point where someone was supposed to be come visiting me. I got them a plane ticket, whatever, and I went to the airport, and I was supposed to go pick them up. And this individual is handicapped like I am. They're disabled, right? So they didn't get off that flight. They didn't show up. I'm driving around the airport. I'm talking to the security guards. And again, because it's not their job, I'm freaking out, and I'm telling this person is supposed to be here. They're disabled. They didn't show up. I just need help finding out, did they get on the plane and all this stuff. And I can't find a spot to park to stay on my phone because they keep moving you. And they don't want to hear that. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I just need you to move. Yeah. I'm like, you're wearing a uniform. You're wearing a uniform, and I'm freaking out about a life or death situation. You're just like, I need you to move. That's the world we live in 2020. That's the world we live in. Because it's not their job. They don't get paid enough. It's just, I just need you to move, man.
Well, he is doing his job. He can't park there.
Right, but it's not his job to worry about my life or death situation. Right? He don't know me. I'm not his brother, even though I am. Right? So I'm going through this, and this voice is calming me down, and it's saying, because I'm sick, right? So now what's happening is I'm starting to get more sick because I'm stressing, and something with what I have is blood related, and so I'm stressing. And as I'm stressing, I'm becoming more ill. And I'm in a car, and I'm not by home, and I'm alone. It's a bad situation. So his voice is calming me down and telling me, it tells me literally, it says, you know that individual is okay. I said, no, I don't know. I said, you do. You know. I said, okay. Maybe. And I said, you know. I said, yeah, I know. All right, cool. So I'm driving. I get lost. I have to it was a mess. It was just a mess, right? So I finally get home like an hour later. And I've had this time to talk with this voice back and forth. And as I did, I'm getting these visions in my head. And it's like my life playing in rewind. But except it's almost like a movie where I can see my life playing in rewind, but there's these spots of my life that, like, let's say it's a conversation you and I have, right? And then I remember this. I have this from my view, my perspective. I have this memory of this conversation. But then you go and you talk to the next person in the other room about this conversation. I wasn't there for that. Well, now I have my life playing in rewind, but that part is filled in for me. And I'm able to see your side and my side. And I'm able to put it together, which is exactly how I was able to do this. That's how it was shown to me. And so I'm able to put all the pieces together, and I get that understanding of what actually took place. But then when I confront people, they lie to me. So in August, cut off, this person didn't show up, I get told, I know what happened. I confront the person, I say, I know what happened. They go, and it's two people now, because this gets another person involved and all this other stuff. And they both are going back and forth telling me that I'm crazy. Down to the point where the last thing said by the person that I held dearest at that time was to call me pathetic. Because they swore that I was, and I told them straight out, because these people these people are people that I've shared my visions with, because they are people that were subjects of my vision. So I had to. They've been around for this. They've seen this. They've experienced this. So I tell them, I've told you this before. I've said it. I've said it to people. I've said that I see these things. I've said that it's not that I didn't say it. I didn't shout it. I held back. I kind of hardly said, but I still said it. And no one wanted to see me. And so I call them out on this. And I say, this is how I know. They double down on the lie. You're full of shit. You don't know. You're making it up because it's just an interrogation tactic. You're just trying to get me to slip up and admit it. So you claim to love me, but you're willing to allow me to check myself into a therapist over this. And I said that to them too, before they called me pathetic. And then that's how that ended. So I cut it off. And immediately after cutting it off, that first hour, I immediately went into sadness and depression and being upset and all of this. And it was about an hour. And then next thing you know, it just all goes away. Like, as if magic. It goes away. I just suddenly don't feel sad anymore. I suddenly don't feel that weight or the negativity. And instead, this voice is it's like having a conversation with you at this point. When this started, it was a whisper. When this started, it was here or there, or a word. It was hard to hear, right? At this point, it's full-on conversations. Which is, close to me thinking I'm crazy. It's full-on conversations. And that's how I spent the rest of that night, with full-on conversations explaining to me what was happening. And so the next day I went to sleep. I was okay. The next day I came out, I woke up, and I have a projector set up. So I put it on my wall. I have a huge, just open wall space. I don't have nothing on it just to put the projector. So I have a chair, I sit, and I put it in front of the wall, and the projector comes on, and I have a theater system, right? And I go to sit, I wake up, I go to sit down, and I go to put on my projector and set it up. What ends up happening is I sit down and I start, I start having visions. And this is where everything is playing for me, like my life in rewind. And I'm getting kind of this flashback. Like they say your life flashes before your eyes when you die. I didn't have that when I died. I had it in this moment. And it wasn't my whole life. It was all of the moments that pertain to those spiritual instances. The instance with the dog, with death, with the angels, with the thing, all of it, but also with people. And with those moments where I had a voice telling me this isn't right or this is what this is, it played those moments for me. And then it played the other side of those moments to show me that I wasn't crazy. To show me, remember when you thought this? That was true. Remember when you thought this? That was right. And it only was specific moments. It just picked, it was like a movie reel from beginning to end of all these random moments, what would seem random. Like I couldn't pick them out. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't consciously go and pick them out. And most of those moments is what I try to cover here because of that exact situation. Okay. Because of that exact vision.
That exact moment, that time that you saw these.
I had to try and recreate that for everyone else here as best I could.
Okay.
So this is to explain that August situation, what led to that.
Okay.
Right after that flashback, the next thing I experience is, I have, it's really, there's not enough, there's not good language for this, right? There's not good language, but it was like I was walking in two worlds at once. I could see this world as I do now, but I could also see the other one. And it was, this is where I was like, I just told you earlier, you were like, you kind of don't want to say it, but you do. I was there. I was like, I knew at this point, it's undeniable to me that this is real and I'm not crazy. Undeniable at this point. And yet still, it was so surreal that I didn't know how to say anything about it, because I'm like, I just didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to open my mouth and let the words come out to explain this, because it felt.
You don't have any words that can actually bring.
No, I knew. No, not at all. I knew it was real inside of me. It's been proved. That's it. I'm beat up. I got beat up. I gave up. Like I give in to God. You know what I mean? I give in with my will to what I asked for. Like that was it. I cannot deny him anymore. I cannot deny what I am anymore. I cannot do the lies anymore. That's the moment I arrived to. But still in that moment, I had difficulty getting the words out.
When is this? After
this
August?
This is at the end of August. This is before I started the text reached this far.
Okay.
This is before the text reached this far. So this is on that way. So so I get the visions of all that stuff, and then I'm walking in this two worlds then, and I know it's real, but it almost doesn't feel real, like logically it doesn't feel real, but it feels real here, but it doesn't feel real here, like just the same like when my sister died, you know, or when an unexpected death of someone really close, that trauma, that shock. It was shock. It was just like I was like, I know it's real, but it doesn't feel real. It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy that it's not crazy. That simple concept by itself just right? So I go through all of this and I snap out of it, and about an hour and a half has passed, and I look up and I see and I realize that I'd been staring at a blank wall the whole time. I'd been sitting in this chair staring at a blank wall for an hour and a half, but I didn't see the wall. I saw all these things, this stuff that I was going through. It was visions. It was things that took me away. And when I came back to the wall and I looked at the time, because this was after I woke up. I normally have a routine because I'm sick. I have to eat at a certain time. I have to take my meds at a certain time. I have to do stuff at a certain time. This is an hour and a half in. I hadn't done any of that. And so I'm looking at the time, and I'm snapping back to here, and I'm like, what just happened? I realized I'd been sitting in front of a wall for an hour and a half, talking to myself like a crazy person, and it hit me. I was like, if there were a hidden camera in here, this is exactly what it would look like. You know what I mean? For crazy, for schizo, this is what that looks like. So I'm running through this in my logical mind and my physical self, and I'm like, how is this? I know it's real, but what do I do with this? You know, like it's just so much. And about that time is where I had already cut pretty much everybody off except for it hadn't reached this far. There's still a few stragglers, right? And I need time to sit with this. I need time without the outside world interfering. I need time without distractions. I need time because even the people we love can be a distraction. Not that it's in a bad way, it's just we have to balance our own energy, and if I'm trying to do that and you're not, you're going to be a distraction for me, right? So, which is why I have to go away. You guys need time, do your thing or whatever, because you're going to be a distraction for me. I love you all, I will lift you up, I'll come back, I promise, but I need time alone with God in my spiritual journey, truly a sabbatical, to go and I'm just now accepting this. I'm just now understanding it. I'm just now, I have not arrived. So I have to walk in it more. And I know now that I can trust this voice. I know now 1,000% I can trust this voice, and I can trust these visions, and they will not lead me astray. I can trust myself now, but I have to also monitor myself. I also have to keep doing that. I have to every day. I have to check myself. Every day I have to apologize. Every day I have to keep remembering and reminding myself from the time I go to sleep to the time I wake up. All right, this is guide my hands, use my tongue. And then I'm sorry where I stepped away and I allowed those distractions to come in place. Let's do better tomorrow. That's my everyday. And I have to do that without allowing for the outside distractions, because I know that there's still negative energy in me right now in this moment. It's there. It hasn't gone away. I didn't defeat it. I've learned to harmonize with it. I'm learning to harmonize with it. I still have that journey to go. And if you bring in a part of you that you don't see is there, I might slip because I do love you and because I want to give, I might slip and allow some of that negative into me. And I'm willing to carry your pain and I'm willing to carry your sin. I'm willing to do that. But right now, I have to first continue my journey so that I can do more when I come back. So that's what's happening with me. In that after these visions, after this, when I was still trying to figure it out, I needed that time, is when people, these extras, these other texts, these other people spying and checking and talking to each other started to happen. And I was shown that my ex-roommate had reached out to someone, and I was shown that that someone had spoken to someone else, and I was shown that all these things were happening, and it's not necessarily that anyone had negative intention, but it was interfering with what I was trying to do. I'm trying to grasp this stuff, and all I get is this noise. It's not God's voice and this other stuff. It's these voices, right? And it's the voices of my loved ones. It's loud. It's loud in my head. It's so loud. Woo. It was loud. It's a lot to deal with, you know? And they didn't understand. They didn't understand. And I was not in a place to sit down and explain it yet. You know, I can't speak to it because I could barely get the words out. You know, this is surreal for me. It's a lot for me. So if I told you when I didn't believe completely, when I was half-hearted, and I told you, I gave you the opportunity to see me, which I did for most of these people. If I did that and you still dismissed me, or you forgot about it, or you just kind of buried it, or you said, yeah, but whatever, you still did not see me, and none of them did to this point, but they will after this. None of them did. If that's what we do when I haven't even got to the point that I'm at, then when I'm at the point that I'm at and I still don't have the words to explain it right, you're still not going to hear me. You're not going to see me. So I had to take time to disappear and meditate on this and talk and do everything I could with the time I was given, because this was all set up. I didn't plan this. This happened. And I knew that I was told this is why this happened. This is where you're going to go. This is when you're going to speak. This is who you need to speak to. I was told all of that. But what I didn't,
very lucky to have these directions.
What I didn't have was how to speak. How to get those words across, how to say that. And so that's what I had to really dig in on, because I'm still human in this very moment. I'm still me. And therefore, it would be very easy for me to slide off in conversation where I'm supposed to be talking about this point and this point and this point, and slide off to something that is of me, that is of my sin, that is of my, and not realize it. And for such an important task as this, for such an important privilege as this, I have to make sure that I do not allow myself to interfere with, when I say use my tongue, I need to stay open to that the whole time. It's not just use my tongue, I asked and I prayed, so now he's going to do it. No. While it's happening, in my head, I get a break, use my tongue, right? Because I guarantee you, just because you're surrounded by the Holy Spirit doesn't mean the demons ain't there too. Doesn't mean your sin isn't there too. It's very easy from outside or inside for those distractions, for those obstacles to get in your way, even when you're in the moment. Right?
Yeah.
So I had to make absolute sure, not that none of this is scripted, not that I knew what to say, but that I was restraining myself from saying the things that were coming from me, and mixing up that message and getting the truth lost in the lies. That's what I had to make sure of. So I took that time, and that is not a time for me to sit over the phone and explain, especially how many hours of this we're just talking. And I still, there's so much more that I haven't said, you know? This is just the parts that I needed to say, that was supposed to be said. There's stuff that I will still continue to talk about offline, to individuals offline, as I'm supposed to offline. There's still a lot of that to come, a whole lot. So the fact that this many hours is the summary, you know what I mean? Should give light to the importance, the significance of just how much I had to put into pulling myself aside and trying to understand this and trying to make sure that I allow, not that I get the message right, but that I allow the message to come through correctly without interference. So I had to cut them off. I had to cut them off because they didn't understand what they were doing, because they were lying to themselves, saying that they were lying to me for good reason. But it was fear that was driving most, or whatever their other sin is. And they didn't see that. Some will see this and still won't see it. They'll choose to, because you're so afraid of the truth, even when you know it's true,
It says,
that you run from it.
let him who have ears hear, eyes see. But it also says delusions will be given.
For sure.
Delusions will be given for those to believe that will. They don't want to believe.
So,
Any more questions that you have?
does that answer your question?
No, that does. That is.
Any more questions? All right, so
I'm going to take a short break because of time, and then we're gonna get. I need to kind of just cleanse myself,
Okay.
and then we'll shoot with whatever messages are supposed to come through. Cool.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.